It's been a while. Sorry for the wait for this part of this small video series. Lost my voice when I originally wanted to record this, and I'm currently having some fits of coughing. Sorry about that. Ugh, ouch. Um, Going to hopefully not make this too long of a recording, just so I can get this out there and work on another project, or restart working on another project I want to do involving Warframe. So, I'm going to be recording from my desktop just to make things easier because we're going to be opening a lot of tabs and a lot of programs all at once, and I want to be able to go over all that as we're doing it. Well, first things first, we are going to open up our file explorer. We're going to locate where we keep Source Filmmaker itself. We're going to be setting up a file. Common, Source Filmmaker, Game, User Mod, Materials, Models, and making our own folder. Right here, I have, let me close this up. I have my Pendragon folder. This is mine. And this is where my models are kept. So we're going to go ahead, go into your materials models, make your folder with whatever name you can use on Steam or whatever. This is, unless you plan on uploading it to the Source Filmmaker workshop, this is only going to be for your use, so name it whatever you want. Go in, once you have that folder made, go in, make a new folder, name it after the model. And that's it. This is all you have to do. Everything else is almost fully automated as far as the actual converting the models and going in and doing it done. That won't be towards the end of the video, so we'll get to that point when we get there. So again, sorry. Next, we are going to, if you haven't already, take your Vroid model and export it as a VRM. And make a separate folder for it on your desktop. I have a different file completely for all mine. Make an MMD folder. Make whatever folders you need for whatever you need them for. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy one of my other folders. And I'll get to this once we actually get to the converting part. But this QC file will come in handy, and I'll have a copy of it, hopefully. Otherwise, once we get to this point, you can just pause the video and copy it off of there. So it should be on screen long enough to pause the video at the right time. So, yeah, just export your Vroid model as a VRM in its own folder, make an MMD or spare folders. This is really pretty much whatever you want. I have 3 with different ones because there's sometimes I want to use different programs that aren't as easy to port to. But that's your own personal preference. I already have this set up, but we're going to go ahead and do this part anyway again, since I did it at the very end of the last video, and I figured I'd do the very start of this one just to help people out. So, and links to almost all of these programs, or all of these programs, hopefully, will be in the description. So we're going to go to a VRM, to PMX. There will definitely be, there's a link in the previous video for converting from Vroid to Source. And the link to this is already there, but I'll most likely put it in the description of this one as well. So open it up, open up the exe file. It's in Japanese. Do not worry about that. All you need to know is where you keep your VRM file. That's why I recommend having a folder for every little thing you do during this process and name it accordingly as much as you can. Click this to find your VRM. This one, not this one. I really don't know what this one does. It doesn't really help with anything as far as I'm aware. Your export. Yes, I'm going to override because it's the same process as before. find your export file where you want to keep it. I would recommend putting it in its own folder inside of the same folder as your VRM, just to make things easier. Click this button and it'll export automatically for you. You have nothing else to do but press those buttons. We'll give it a minute because it takes a little bit. All right, cool. Now, we go into Steam now. At least I'm going to Steam. Personal use. This is whatever you want. Ignore all this. I'm weird, I know. I'm gonna go find Blender. Make sure you go into properties, betas. We want 2.79b. This is the one that works best for me personally. It's up to you. All right. That's all said and done. That's all set up. That's all you have to do in there. Open up Blender, either from Steam itself or from the file in question. Just gonna leave all this running. All right. Delete. You want to you pretty much just want to shift click all of this. And you're good to go. Now, I already have all this stuff pre-installed, but just to show people how to do it properly, you do need 2 external add-ons for Blender for 2.79b and newer. 2.79b specifically, just in this case, as it's the easiest one to use for this process. We want to access our user preferences, add-ons, install add-on. Wherever you end up saving these, I recommend them in their own folder as well. You're going to want source tools, 3.2.5 or 3.2.5 is what I use, and Cat's Blender plugin master. These are your 2 tools you will be using for this process. The rest of these were experimental for me trying to test out Blender. Links to both of these will be in the description below. Do not worry about it. I already have these installed. So once you have these installed properly, all you got to do is find them again. Once again, file, user preference, add-ons, import, install add-on from file. Select those both. If you do individually, both have to do individually one by one after the other. But once you have both installed, add-ons, you should find them in here. You can just search for them by name. And once you do, save user settings, close out, restart Blender. And once you're all set up and ready back in Blender, go ahead and pause the video now so you can get all that set up. And then once you come back, restart and we'll get going. And we're going to be using cats and source tools. We won't be using anything else. Anything else you see on here for me is for my own personal use. Oh, sorry. So, another thing I would highly recommend we do before we actually do go into getting everything ready to go is go into where you keep your PMX files. You're going to have all these other folders here. Go into your texture folder, cheek dye, and these 5 eye textures are unnecessary. And they will actually make it harder for later, converting later. You want to see how I made the character we're going to be using for this? That's literally the whole thing of the previous video. Go ahead and watch that if you want to at a later date. This is the main bread and butter of this whole process. This is literally going to be the main part of the main video that most people are probably going to end up watching anyway, because the other one is outdated. If you're here because you watched the previous one or you saw the previous one, were confused, didn't like it, understandable. This is the updated version. If I didn't make that that's not something you noticed, that's fine. Enough rambling. Once you're in here, go to cats, go to your cat's blender tool, go to your cat's tools, import model. Do not press this one, press this little sidebar, the three little bars on the side here, MMD. That is the program that the PMX file is for. So that's all it is. You don't have to have MMD itself installed on the computer. You can have the PMX file separate of MMD. It is just a file type we are using. We are not using anything else. Go to where you kept it in your folders. Remove doubles, clean model. The recommended way of doing it is setting the scale to 1 for default once you import it. Rename bones of left and right. Rename bones using an underscore. Rename internal dictionary. Everything else you should not need to touch. Don't worry about any errors. Those are perfectly fine. Once all of this is set up down here, go ahead and import model file. It'll take a minute, and there we go. It does look a little wonky now. Trust me, I know. It can look a little scary. Oops. Okay, hold on. Let me redo that. MMD 1. I went back a little too far. Okay. Shift, middle mouse. Middle mouse for basically all camera movements in Blender, if you weren't aware. Now comes the fun part. And join meshes. Model option. Yeah, okay. Yeah, go into this little fixed model part. Click this. Unselect join meshes. Everything else is good. Go into model options. Separate materials. Go ahead and put Blender into texture mode just in case. Get everything working. Lose parts if you can. If there are multiple meshes found and errors, that's fine. Now we press the fix model button, and this will clean up the model for us. And it will take a solid minute. It will take a solid minute or so to get it all set up. All right, model successfully fixed. Here we are. So, this is the main reason why you wanted to unselect join meshes initially, just so it wouldn't do it automatically, so you could make sure the model was in fact fixed correctly. Now, go ahead. Select the whole thing and join all meshes. And this should just automatically put the model back together for you to make the export process easier. All right. Oh, nope, still thinking. My bad. A little too jumping the gun right here. And this little tiny square of numbers on it. There we go. Yeah. So the main thing we want, well, the two things we want is actually in this tiny little box up here. And that is because where it says body, that is where you're going to find your texture files. Now, of course, this is the part where things get crazy. We're going to start renaming textures. Don't worry, it's not as crazy as I think it is. Yeah, and for this part, again, you're just gonna once you join all the meshes together, you're just gonna come back over to this little square here. You're gonna press body, Gonna go to your text, this little texture circle right here, this material tab. You're gonna start merging and renaming textures. Personally, what I like to do is for ones like this where there's only one copy, but there's only one version of it, but it's with the last little bits in Japanese, is I just like to put a 1 behind it. That's the shadowing or the shading or the just edge of this texture, so don't worry about that. But for these ones like this, like the tops, the 01 underscore tops underscore 4, literally just select the Japanese one and minimize it. Oh, sorry. Again. We're just going to go ahead and just do that for all of these. As well as these 00 iris and then Japanese names. The only iris you should have is the one that actually has the eye texture. And the same goes for the whites. And then all of these ones that are for the face and hair. Aside from that one that was just pure white, are good. And just go back, grab these Japanese ones, and just add just get rid of the Japanese characters and just add whatever you want at the end, be it edge or the number 1. I just prefer the number 1 as it just makes it easier to make the texture conversion itself easier. And yes, we do need to convert the textures too, not just the model. And this is going to be the part that takes the longest, so buckle up, buckaroos. It's going to take a while. Alright. I would recommend actually renaming this part here to whatever the name of the character is. I'm just using the name Foxy because it's a pirate dude, and it's red-haired, and he has 2 different colored eyes and the metal hand. So, just named him after the FNAF character. Whoop-de-doo. Oh boy. This is the part where I think I'm going to have to go and explain it because we're renaming, we're going to rename the bones for the most part. This does not take as long as our textures, but it does take up quite a bit of time, and we're already about 20 minutes in. I want to try to make this video as short as possible, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to open up source. I'm going to show you what we need to I'm going to show how a typical model is laid out, and we're going to go from there. And while I don't normally ask this, if you want me to do a part 3 where I go over the basics of Source Filmmaker itself, as far as I know, and or maybe just a long form video of me making a scene build with our character here, with our Foxy character here, let me know in the comments. No, I don't want to save that. And this is my test save session. Why it's literally just called session, not anything fancy. This is literally where I'm testing all of my models and rigs. That's what we're basically what we're gonna be doing next is the rig. Though it's already pre-built, we need to name it properly for Source itself. I got a lot of models. This is gonna take a hot minute. 432 files. Jesus Christ. I'm probably going to have to cut this part out. I'm not going to stop recording. I'm just going to cut this part out. Or fast forward through it. With just some stupid, really fast, yeah, probably. I have so many fucking I use for no reason. Feel free to pause this at any moment. Just look at what the kind of crazy nonsense I subscribe to on the Steam Workshop is. It's a fun time. Pardon me while I take another drink of my tea. Come on, Source, I don't got all day. I mean, technically I do, because I'm off of work. So, but still. That's the only chance I'm gonna get to record this, probably. Come on, 13 more files. We're almost there, buddy. Oh, sorry if this ends up all staying in, but probably just feeling too ready to make sure you edit. And this is why I wanted to keep this on my desktop for this, because I'm not gonna constantly change stuff in OBS to record. I don't have to. So again, we're gonna have like 20 million tabs. I already said at the beginning of the video, we're gonna have 20,000 tabs open, tabs and programs open for this. So just while I'm waiting for that, I'm gonna go ahead and put this into the motion editor. It's just this little one right here. Open up. It lets me. There we go. And it's all these categories over here on this side are what we're gonna be doing. So first things first, we're gonna do body. So the main thing is BIP underscore name of the bone and then a number if there's multiple segments. Thank you, source. We are all done. Thank you, source. So first things first, we're going to do the main body. We're going to do the pelvis, the spine, the neck, and the head. So back into Blender, pelvis, or hip. Go ahead and go to the bones tab, BIP underscore pelvis. And instead of left leg, this is going to be left hip. We're going to be using underscores for all of these. Actually, it's going to be BIP hip L. That is the format we'll be using. We'll be using BIP, the name of the bone, left or right, and then the number. For the bone, we don't need that, so we're going to be BIP underscore leg underscore left. I believe it's been a hot minute. For the legs, yes, that is correct. I just had to wait. Ah, I see. Hip, knee, foot, and toes. Okay. My bad. Okay, so it's hip, knee, there we go. And that you're going to be doing that for every bone. So that's part of the reason why I say buckle up. This is going to be a while. Oh, wait, whoops. That's not right. That's not the left. We're on the right now. And yes, you do need to differentiate between right and left. Source will not be happy if you don't. You're going to have just an entire one section of the model, this bone stuff, categorized as unknown. And you're not going to be able to find any of the bones you want. in that list. You'll have to literally use the main window, and click on the bones in the model to find the one you want, which is a pain in the butt because if you don't name them properly, they're all just little dots, and there's like 100 something of them. There's about 100 something bones average in these models. If you don't really mess with them or anything inside of Blender itself or making Miku dance, which I really don't recommend you doing, it's no real point to that. Alright, so hips are done. Spine, this. Yeah, okay, so spine, chest, upper chest. Yeah, so right here. This. Bip. Spine. _0, I believe, is next. Yes, because we have our pelvis, so next we want is our spine. So we're going to be doing 0. One. And 2. Neck and head are fine. Just bip _neck. There you go. Same with the head. Bip _head. The eyes, you really don't have to if you don't want to. They load anyway, either way, but I like to do it just in case something does go wrong in the converting process. We will be all set and ready to go. So that's all of that. Goes the head, goes the neck, the left and right breasts. I would just leave those unless you have a female character. You can name those, but they don't usually keep the names. For the breastbones, or at least they don't really matter because there's no reason. Fingers, we are going to be doing fingers and arms are next, since we have the legs and the main torso done. This right here, as far as the already long process of renaming bones is concerned, is the longest because there's just so many more bones. Your fingers and your hair are going to be the places where you have the most bones. I wouldn't worry about renaming the hair. There's not anything inside of Source that has a dedicated hair section. It's just the main body limbs. Hair, eyes, and stuff like that are usually, unless you have pure outright face posing with sliders and such, are all going to go in under the unknown tab down here. This is where all your extra nonsense is. We aren't going to have to touch any of the bones and stuff that end up in there. That stuff is literally just go as you want, and if you know Blender better than I do, or you experiment with Blender and you find something cool, and that involves those bones and flexes, be my guest. But right now, it's just the arms and such, which are actually going to be named differently than you would think. So, the shoulder is actually going to be named the collar. Instead, our arm is going to be named upper arm. Don't worry about the twists. We don't have to worry about those. Our elbow is going to be renamed to lower arm. And our wrist is going to be renamed to hand. And the fingers are already labeled left and right, as well as their numbers. It is just a matter of bip __. And I'm certain you can probably leave these in the order they're in. I would recommend not, depending. Oh, nope, yep, we can actually leave those just how they are. We can leave the number or some of the number orders. At least it's the thumb. Never mind. The thumb, we can leave the number orders for, since those are already actually done for us. We just have to put the underscores in the proper places. Make sure we update the name so that when we port this to source, we are ready to go. And that's the thumb. Thumb's done. Index, all the other fingers, we have to redo the numbers as well. So bip underscore. Do not keep a finger in there. Just name it index underscore. And then replace the 1 with a 0. Underscore 1L bip underscore index. Underscore 2 bip underscore. Middle finger, we are literally going to be naming it middle underscore 0 left with bip underscore at the front. Bip underscore underscore 1 left. Bip underscore middle underscore 2 left. Ring is the exact same way. Copy and paste and repeat ad nauseum until everything is ready to go. Our little finger is going to be the one that we actually do change the name for, but it's just naming it pinky. That is the only change we're making to that one. Armature is renamed. We are golden. Now to go ahead and go to our scene. Collapse pretty much all of these, because as long as you have the correct thing installed, we are going to go ahead and we are going to select where we are going to export this. And it is not to the folder you think it is. It is going to be to its own separate folder. So I would again recommend the same folder you have the VRM and the PMX files in somewhere. Change the weight to 0.5. DMX, you're gonna trust me. That way you can keep your face flexes and stuff that come from our good friend, the VRM to PMX converter. Everything else should be not need to be touched. We are good to go ahead and press the export button. Boxing. And it will take a minute and you will get errors. Any errors that come up are perfectly fine and can be ignored safely. So if it says too many vertices, too many flexes, and so on, that is fine. Source has a limit to how many of those things a model can possess. Which is why, if you've ever messed with Source Filmmaker for long enough and you've put a lot of individual models for a scene build and your computer and the program and or your computer starts slowing down, is because you are getting close or exceeding Source Filmmaker's default vertices polygon limit. See right here that Source Tools error report that said that not all the bones met the weight to link threshold. That is fine. Every model you convert in this way without modifications in between steps is going to have that error. But the models still work inside a source as they should using this process. Again, if you want more complex things such as body groups and more face flexes, IK rig setup and all that, you're better off finding individuals like Pete Jack. He has his own YouTube channel, though his videos are very old, they're still very relevant to this process. Now, the last thing with doing Blender is to just keep it open so we can convert the textures. If you did what I did and you were looking at a pre-ported model for the names of the bones, go ahead. You want to keep the session, save it, close out a source. You don't need a source itself until we load the model into it. Now we are going to go into our tools and we're going to pull out VTF edit. This is our texture editor, which is why we want to keep this side panel here in Blender open. You shouldn't need most of these. The only other section you should need is the name of the texture itself that you are using. So your side panel should not look like this. Under the materials tab, all of these other ones should be closed except for the MMD texture and the top thing that has the textures that you should have renamed by now to what you want them to be named, because the names that you have here in Blender are going to be the names you are going to name the textures for source. They have to be identical or else they will not work. So we're going to go into VTF edit. We're going to press import. You're going to find where we keep our textures, which should be in the MMD text file. For the PMX file, you converted at the very start of the video. We are going to select our texture. We are going to go down to our MMD texture. We're going to find that it is underscore 19 PNG. Every texture file for this is a PNG or a BMP. The BMPs are not to be used, as those are unnecessary. It will just be the PNGs. So we find underscore 19 PNG, we open it. None of this needs to be touched. And there we go. We're gonna go to Control S, and it saves as a VTF file. Now we are going to go into our Steam, our Source Filmmaker user mod, to that folder we should have made at the very start of the video. Under Materials, Models, your folder for your ported models, the Models Personal folder, and it should be empty. Now we look over to Blender. We see what we named the file. 0, 1 underscore capital S. It is very specifically, it has to be identical. There can be no errors when you are converting the texture file itself. And we're going to do that for every single texture. Of course, ones that are identical, like we have this dark one, and we have this shoe 01 underscore shoes underscore 02 underscore 1. We have the same thing without the 1. You literally have to just resave the same texture. Control S. Actually, going to go ahead. Going to actually. We're going to import. We're going to go back to that. No, that's not it. Hold on, I'm confusing myself already. I think because this model is so simple, we actually only need one copy. So I'm actually going to go all the way back into my user mod. And I'm actually going to delete this one. I'm going to control save. And instead, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to get rid of this part. And I'm going to save. I'm going to go into Blender. I'm actually going to get rid of these ones. All right. So import. See? Okay. Desktop. Converts. Oxy. MMD. Text. And then we're going to need 18. Again, the PNG, not the BMP, has to be identical. Load it into VTF. Don't even bother looking at it. As long as you know you picked the right texture, it should be the right texture. Now, it is going to have you by default already have the one of the previous one you already did. Please do not override that one. You will have to fix it all later. Please, please, please pay attention to what you are naming the files and what they are named in Blender. I am not going to help you solve a problem that could have been avoided. Doing a simple little bit of reading. I know for a fact there are going to be people who will come into this, complaining that, oh, there's an error in Blender when I already said that all of the errors you see are perfectly fine, as long as you did not overlook a step in the process. Please, please, please read, because I will not be responding to most comments regarding such things, as I have explicitly stated that you must read when you are doing this. I will not know what you name your files. That is your decision when you are making the model. Ready for porting. I am not porting your models for you. You won't be doing this yourself, as I will be making no money from this process. I am simply here to give the people a way to express themselves. I am not doing it for you. Feel like I screwed that up at some point. Okay, no, I'm still good. I did not misread. Always double check yourselves on that. Trust me, it will save you a bunch of headache later when you go back to do this again and again and again. Just trust me. If you want to really put yourself to the test with this, I would recommend making multiple models. I said in the previous video, at the very start or so, while I was making Foxy here, I did make a note that if there was interest, I would consider making the rest of the FNAF crew in the in the Vroid maker and converting them all to source. That is a very long process. All right. Go ahead and save. Where you want to save. So now we are done with Blender. Go ahead and close out. Now we are with VTF. We're going to go in, we're going to go to Tools, we're going to go create VMT files, Options, No Call, Translucent, Vertex Generic. Just double check, and then Create. And save. And we're going to do that for every one of these. until we get to the face with the irises. Irises, you're going to want alpha test. Eye whites, you will not. Face, you will not need alpha. Face brow. You will need it. Face eyelash, you will need alpha. Face eye line, you will need alpha. Mouth and hopefully everything else, you will not. You will mostly just need it for the eyes and everything associated with those outside of the eye whites. I'm not sure I can be any more clearer than that. And there we go. Textures are done. We can close VTF. Now we're going to go into our converts, go into our Foxy file, find Foxy, find where we put our DMX file, and make a QC file. Just in case you aren't aware, you can always go to more options, properties. There are plenty of tutorials on here, but you want to make it in a .qc file. You can make this in Notepad or a text editor, but you want to save it as a QC file. I will link a copy of the basic one below. The idea is simple. We are literally just going to be taking all of where it says Alex, and we're just going to be changing that to Foxy in my case. Where it says Pendragon, that will be the name of your folder where you put the model. So for this model name at the very top, it would be user mod, materials, models, Pendragon, Foxy. And then that's where the Foxy model would be saved. Foxy DMX, name where it says DMX. That is going to be where you put the name of your DMX file. We are going to save. To exit, we are going to rename this to Foxy. That way, when we open it, it all just says Foxy. We are done here too. Last thing we need to do, and this is it. This is our last hoorah here. Is going to be Crowbar. When you first open up Crowbar, if you have Steam saved on a separate drive, go up to either here or press this button to set up your game. Make sure it says source filmmaker, the engine is source, and where all of your stuff is saved. It will automatically, all you have to do is follow the file path until you find the file it is asking for. Now, go to compile, and once all of that is said and done, come back here, and all we have to do is grab Foxy. Right, all we gotta do is converts, Foxy, Foxy, Foxy QC. That's it. That's all we should do. We're gonna press compile. And it's done. So, we're going to test and see if Foxy made it into source. If you did, that's the end of the video. Go back and rewatch segments as you need. Rewatch as you need. I will. And there we go. He does load in. He is a little small. So, we're going to go ahead and keep this open. I'm going to reopen Blender. Going to reopen our file for Foxy. Tools, scale, and you should set all of these to 3.5. This is about the size of the TF2 character models. Oh, whoops. Okay, so scale. Grab the whole thing. Go back up to where it says armature and grab the whole thing, and then set these to 3.5. Why are you like this? Come on. Oh my god, really? Hold on. Program's not. There we go. Okay, make sure you only select where it says armature. Do not select anything else. That. Save. Scene. Re-export. Right. And then just go back to Crowbar. Recompile. And you're all done. Hope this was helpful, and any questions, as long as I put the links in the description, should be all set to go for any future projects that you have. Now I'm gonna go drink some more tea. My throat's starting to kill me again. Bye.